Welcome everyone to the Sunnyvale Democratic Club meeting of March 16th. We have a exciting packed agenda. Glad you all are here on this beautiful day. We are going to start with an election recap by our political director, Martin Pine. We're going to hear from a couple of candidates and prospective candidates. We are also going to get an update from Fremont Union High School District redistricting committee. And also our main invited speaker is Sunnyvale's Equity, Access, and Inclusion manager, Fernanda Perdomo-Arciniegas. And then lastly, we're going to hear from Gail and Peggy about the Silicon Valley Hopper. All right, so with that, why don't I turn it over to Martin to give us the recap of the March 5th election that we just had.
Okay, we had an election on March 5th, and we've actually counted enough of the votes to be able to say something about it by now, so that's good. So the headline is basically all of our endorsed candidates either won or advanced to the November election. Representative in Congress, Rokana got 60. Well, actually, I'm only looking at the Santa Clara number, but he got nearly 2/3 of the vote. So, and the Republican got about 1/4 of the vote. All the other random candidates got single digits percentage. This wasn't one of our endorsed races, but Senate-wise, the two, but for federal Senate, the Adam Schiff, the Democrat Adam Schiff, and Republican Steve Garvey are the two candidates that are advanced to the fall election. We mercifully didn't have a state Senate race this year, for the first time in a while. For assembly, both of our endorsed candidates will be advancing to the fall. Patrick got 34.5%. Tara got 27%. Republican Sophie Yang Song got 22%, and Omar Dean got 12%. And the other two candidates got single digits. And ballot measures, there was one ballot measure relevant to Sunnyvale on the ballot, and that was Measure C, and that got nearly 70% of the vote. So it passed fairly overwhelmingly. So that's my election recap. It's pretty quick because for once it feels, because again, all of our endorsed candidates advanced or won. Oh yeah, that reminds you, the one I forgot to mention because it was very obvious. County Supervisor District 3, Otto Lee won because he was the only candidate on the ballot and he got 100% of the vote. So yeah, that's the quick election recap.
All right, great. Thank you, Martin. We actually we're expecting Tara and Patrick to join us a little bit later and just say a few words, but I don't see them on right now. So we are going to move on. We've got, we want to introduce some people who are announced or thinking of announcing their candidacy for the November election. So I'm pleased to see Jessica Spicer here and invite you to introduce yourself to the club.
Hi, Jessica Spicer. I am currently a trustee with Los Altos School District, have been such since 2016. And I am running for Santa Clara County Board of Education trustee area 1, which encompasses North Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Los Altos Hills, and Palo Alto. Let me give you a little bit of background about myself. I actually grew up in Massachusetts in a low-income family. My dad died when I was 6, and for the most part, my mom was a single mother. She did bring men into our life, but they weren't the nicest of men. And she was alcoholic. And really the only thing that helped me growing up was my public school. My public school education is really what made a difference for me and allowed me to excel, and allowed me to gain early admission to Wellesley College. And later on, I went on to law school. As I said, I became a trustee in 2016 when after my kids had joined the public school system, and I had become involved from the PTA level, the foundation level, every which way I could help. I ran a bond campaign, just like Peggy just did, and did stellar, did better than Los Altos did in 2014. So just amazing. Anyway, and just to give you a quick background, a lot of people are like, what does the County Board of Education do? A lot of us kind of know what our local districts do. It's not really it's not really the same. They're an appellate body for some decisions that local districts make, like expulsions, charters, whether to accept a charter school, and also intra-district transfers. They're also the district of record for the court school, so juvenile detention, alternative school, which is kind of in between, say normal school and juvenile detention. So those kids that are suffering either chronically absent or suspended, expelled, but not in the juvenile detention system quite yet. And then the hardest cases of special education go through the county. And because of my background, my passion is, in fact, the kids that are underserved, and really the county, they directly served the underserved. And they're also just a service provider for all 31 districts in the county. And why I would love eventually the Sunnyvale Democrats Club's support is that I have been a Dem pretty much since birth. As I told you about my background, I was a recipient of all versions of entitlement. My mother got Social Security survivor's benefits because my father died. I got all the different types of federal grant and loan programs when going to college because I was so poor. I wish I could say I had Obamacare, but I'm too old for that. I was just very lucky that I was not a sick child because I did not have health insurance till college, and that was part of my financial aid package. And things that I plan to do as a trustee for the county is I want to I want to make sure that every kid is met where they are, and that they're excelling in education, no matter their demographics. My tagline is demographics should not determine your destiny. I know from firsthand experience that can happen. It's harder to come by, but I want to make sure the county is a resource for all districts to make that happen for all of our kids. It's not an easy row to hoe, but it's a plan I plan to continue to push forward. And I plan to represent all the 6 local districts that will be in my catchment the best I can, and also make sure I'm making the best decisions for the rest of the county and those students. And lastly, I really want to actually make sure that people understand what the County Board of Education does. One of the things I've done as a Los Altos School District trustee is I spend a lot of time before each one of my board meetings writing a blog post to tell people what are, what's on our agenda and what that means, and writing it in plain English. A lot of what we get is not in plain English. And I like to make people understand it's a lot more transparent, and it allows people to engage better if they understand what's going on. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'd like to eventually get your support. And with Peggy's drop of the link, I am now a member of your committee. So thank you very much for having me. And I can answer any questions, of course.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Yes, we look forward to seeing you more later. I see Martin has his hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to flag that, and we will be doing endorsements in this race along with all the other races later this fall. So watch your inbox. So I'll be putting that together over the next few months.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. I do see that Tara Sri Krishnan has joined, and I know she wanted to say a few words. So Tara, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And first and foremost, please vote for and support Jessica. She's running for my current board, and so I'm thrilled that she's a candidate. But I just wanted to hop on and thank everyone. I was honored to be endorsed by this club that I believe I've paid my membership. But please remind me if I haven't. But am thrilled to announce that we're advancing to the general election for state assembly, and so many members of the club have made phone calls and done canvassing, and every vote counts. And we really ran a grassroots campaign and won votes at the doors and person-to-person organizing. And so I can't thank you enough. And I don't want to embarrass anyone, but a lot of super volunteers I see, and you'll be getting personal thank you cards as well. And I'll be hosting a volunteer appreciation event, so please join us just to have a bit of fun. And thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Tara. I also want to open it up just for a few other potential school board candidates who are thinking of running or have announced running. So first, I'd like to introduce Doug Coons. Doug, just please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Crystal. So anybody who's known me for a while has known that passing on a good world to the next generation has been a passion of mine for years, whether that's been serving on the Sustainability Commission for the city of Sunnyvale, being an adult leader in scouting, or being an officer in local PTA units. And the next step in that journey is going to be running for the Cupertino Union School District Board of Trustees this November. So I'll leave it there, but hope to have the support of the Sunnyvale Democratic Club and look forward to continuing this conversation in upcoming months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And I want to give Peggy Brewster the microphone.
Hi, everyone. I am running for trustee area 4 in Sunnyvale School District. Haven't really had a chance to do much with campaigning, have a lot of other balls in the air, but I do officially want to say that. I know that I mentioned that already at the Democratic Club party in December. So I'm just really looking forward to earning all of your support and to representing North Sunnyvale. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peggy. All right, and so proud that the Dem Club is has so many members who are now seeking election, and that's awesome. That's one of the things that we do. Okay, next we'll move on to hear from Kay Sato and Doug Coons, who are on the Citizens Advisory Committee for Redistricting for Fremont Union High School District. and they're going to give an update and show the 3 proposed maps that the committee will be giving to the district to consider. So
So
Doug,
thanks for your time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks for your time today. How much time do I have for this?
How much do you need?
I think it depends on the questions that come up, but let's say 15, 20 minutes. That seems reasonable?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Can I share screen, please?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay, thank you. So as we're getting that going, so my name is Kei Sato. I'm a Sunnyvale resident of 25 years, and I live in the Homestead High School area, and I am a member of the Community Trustee Area District Committee along with Doug. And let me see if I can get the share up. There we go. So can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Excellent. So in the next 15, 20 minutes, what I want to do is go over our progress to date as the CTAD committee. So really quickly go over where we've been and what we've done, get into the heart of the matter, which is the maps, and then talk through next steps. You can go ahead and ask me questions as I go along, and I also put a link in the chat for the actual mapping tool if you really want to geek out and look at maps and look at neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff, because this presentation is not very high fidelity, so you may sort of miss the details. Also, I know all of you are experts, so if you feel that I'm lingering on a point that you're all well versed on, just tell me to move along, and I'll be happy to do so.
One thing that I would highlight with respect to the online tool that Kay mentioned is that it has different layers that you can switch on. So you can see city boundaries, you can see both middle school and elementary school attendance areas. It gives you a few different ways to really slice and dice and look at the district and relate the proposed maps to the way that you see the neighborhoods and areas.
Yeah, and it's actually really cool, and playing with it sort of gives you insight into exactly where things are, and so I encourage you to play with it now or later. This is old news for all of you, right? We're doing this because we need to comply to CVRA. We don't want to get sued. We want better representation. Should be really old news to all of you here. In terms of the process, this whole thing started now almost a year ago, actually over a year ago, when the Board of Trustees at the Fremont District adopted the resolution to move to trustee areas. And our committee that Doug and I are on was formed in late November, and we've been doing a lot of work since then to collect feedback and draw up new maps. And here we are at the middle of March, preparing to present our point of view and our recommendations for the trustee maps. And hopefully all this will be done in time for 2024 election. And that is our plan.
And I would just urge community members, if you support the process, if you have perspectives on the maps. So this Wednesday's board meeting is where those map recommendations are being presented. And definitely hope to see a lot of people there making public comment in favor of, hopefully the maps themselves offering your viewpoint, but also in favor of the process itself.
Great. So this is, we're going to talk in terms of scenarios. And so back in the fall of last year, our demographers and consultants came up with 4 different scenarios, 4 possible maps that could divide the Fremont Union District. This is prior to all the great community feedback, but just wanted to remind you that this has been ongoing, and there are already 4 scenarios that have been sort of presented. And so what Doug and I and the team have been working on is a riff, an improvement to these maps, and then we're calling scenarios 5, 6, and 7 that better incorporate the feedback they've got from the community. So our role, Doug, me, the 14 other members, right? All we were doing and trying to do is educate the community, make sure that they know that this is happening, make sure that this is not a giant secret and not a conspiracy theory, and collecting feedback so that these maps are sort of the best that it can be in terms of representing the community and keeping like communities and like groups together and making sure that all representative groups are represented to the best of our abilities in elections. We are also, ultimately our deliverable are recommendations for maps and also the sequencing that goes along with it. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. We did 36 community meetings. We did a couple of webinars. There's a lot of things that we did to make this well known. And we've gotten a lot of input from different people in different communities. So that was great. So in terms of how we went about choosing the maps, right? So on the left-hand side is all the legal stuff, right? It has to be federally compliant, it has to be state compliant. Great. But as we got feedback from and talking to people, right, things emerged in terms of what is really interesting as a community of interest to the community. What people believe binds a group together, binds a community together. And as we sort of synthesized our perspective, these 5 things sort of popped up, right? Like, there were people who really, really, really wanted to see each trustee area maintain cohesion with the school attendance boundary. So this homestead attendance boundary should try to be in one trustee area. And that even traveled down to the elementary middle schools, right? There's a lot of interest, especially in Sunnyvale, to maintain the Columbia Middle School and the Sunnyvale Middle School communities as a trustee area. And you will see that in the maps that we developed as well. Neighborhoods, Snail, Birdland, Heritage District, there's a strong interest in keeping those together in a trustee area. And down in Cupertino, Rancho Rinconada, West San Jose, they were very interested in making sure that they were not broken apart and split into different trustee areas. City boundaries is an obvious one. Sunnyvale wants to stay together, Cupertino wants to stay together. It's sort of it's how people identify themselves. And then travel distances. This was definitely an item that came from the Sunnyvale community in that there is a different lived experience when you have to travel huge distances to get to school. And so can we please make sure there's representation, strong representation, just based on where people are commuting from? Any questions on this? So this goes beyond sort of the legal requirements for race and all that kind of stuff. And it's really about what a community consists of. Sequencing, so that is the order in which each trustee area is up for election. So there's 5 trustee areas. In 2024, there's 2 seats up for re-election, and in 2026, there's 3. And so part of the CTAD's deliverable is to provide a recommended sequencing as to which trustee area should be up for election in 2024 and in 2026. Cool. So what we did, lots of words here, but on March 11th, Doug, we spent like 3 hours, 4 hours, I don't know, a long time looking at all the feedback we got and looking at all the maps that the community provided. In all, the community provided 25 different maps for consideration as input to us. Some of them are perfectly legal, some of them are not at all legal, some of them were not recommended by legal counsel, but we chose to look at all of them because we believed that they all told a story, and there was a reason that somebody made the effort to make a map, because it's not easy to make a map in this tool. And so we wanted to honor their effort and their wanting to be heard. And so we looked at all of them. And patterns definitely emerged. And so we sort of like did the exercise. We clustered like maps together, and we ended up with having 3 different maps that best represented the feedback that we got and the input that we received. And as part of the exercise, there was a clear there was a bunch of people from Sunnyvale who knew what Sunnyvale needed and what Sunnyvale wanted. So we sort of split off and did our thing. And people in the South knew what they needed, what their community wanted. So they worked on their piece for a little bit, and then we brought it back together, and we all looked at it together to see, hey, does this make sense for all of us? And at the end of the night, we took a vote, and we approved that these 3 maps would move forward as recommendations to the board.
And just to expand on that point, I really, you know, if for the people that were in the room, it really did feel like, you know, different people, you know, we had good representation from across the district on the CTED committee. And it really felt like people were working on how does the area that I know best, you know, best be represented in maps. And it really felt like the committee tapped into the expertise and local knowledge of, you know, from different parts of the district. And then I hope that you'll agree that the maps that we came up with reflect that local knowledge. And it really felt like a harmonious process and very, well, let's get on to the maps.
Yeah, let's go to the maps. Yeah, let's go to the maps. So like I said, right, 1 through 4 are the demographer, the consultant provided maps. Scenarios 5, 6, and 7 are the ones that we created. So this is a summary. These are the 3 maps. You know, they all look pretty alike, which is kind of cool. And so the devil is in the details. And so, like Doug mentioned, we're like, you know, let's take a look at these, and then if you have feedback, you know, there's many ways to get in touch with us. But these are 3 maps. Just to make sure everybody knows, variance is the variance of the largest population districts to the smallest population districts. Right. So in theory, we would all want all of these districts to have 40,000 people, but that just isn't going to practically happen. And so 10% is sort of the max target that we have. Asian majority, CVAP majority, it's the districts in which Asians represent the majority from a voting population. And then from a Hispanic perspective, Trustee Area 2 has 27%. So not a majority, but a good concentration of the Hispanic vote in Trustee Area 2. So I'm going to go through the same data for all 3 maps. I'm going to go look at the map itself. I'm going to talk about some of the highlights and features of each map, and then we're going to look at actually not some numbers, a lot of numbers in these, and I will try my best to answer questions. So scenario 5, and just polling, do you want me to talk mostly about the Sunnyvale side of the house, or is there interest in the Cupertino side? Like, what's sort of the mode here?
I would say focus more on Sunnyvale, but a little bit on Cupertino as well.
Yeah, great. And that helps because I'm definitely more expert in the Sunnyvale side of the house than the southern side. So this is scenario number 1. So as you can see, a lot of the maps have the same feature of a mostly north-south division in Sunnyvale, except for sort of this like north-south view that follows as close as possible with the middle school attendance map. So the reason it sort of dips down in the purple dips down is that's how the Columbia Middle School attendance area is drawn. The area down here, south of Fremont Avenue for Sunnyvale, is actually split into 2 trustee areas. So I think this is Deanza Road or Sunnyvale Saratoga Road is the dividing line in this one. And so that's one area where like sort of cohesive neighborhood might have been broken up. And then going down here, right, like it's the West San Jose and the Saratoga neighborhoods are sort of glued together as part of the Lindbergh attendance area.
So, yeah, for the dividing line between trustee areas 2 and 4, for this map, it follows major roads. So it goes Maud, and then Matilda, Evelyn Avenue, Fair Oaks, and then that last little bit is Old San Francisco Road. One thing,
and then the other odd thing is that the Butcher's Corner and sort of its environs are clubbed into this trustee area number 1 as well.
So this particular map was effectively produced by taking a couple of different maps, and a lot of the Sunnyvale people on the committee, basically said, well, what should the Sunnyvale, north of Fremont Avenue part of the district look like? And then other members of the committee who, came from south of Fremont Avenue said, well, let's talk, come up with what we think our best south of Fremont Avenue looks like. And then we put them together into this map.
So in terms of, and this is going to be the same, actually, what's going on here? I might have the wrong meeting open, so hold please.
So while Kay's pulling something
Yes.
up,
Sorry.
The original 4 scenario maps that were proposed by the demographer for the district, one of them had, just kind of a straight line across, dividing north and south, so it kind of looked like a layer cake. And then scenario maps 2, 3, and 4 more had kind of long north-south skinny districts. And those ones achieved the highest Hispanic Latino representation in a district that was kind of a trustee area that was in the Northeast. And in talking with the community, we definitely heard, a desire for more of that kind of north-south split to keep together people who had long travel distances to school, but we also heard a desire for greater Hispanic Latino representation. And so the formulation that you'll see actually reflected in all 3 of these maps, which is attempting to follow a Sunnyvale School District's middle school attendance boundaries, struck a nice compromise that you did have more of that northern Sunnyvale district and preserving that, but having a higher Hispanic Latino percentage of representation in that northern district than you achieved just in the straight across layer cake kind of look that was in the district scenario 1.
Great. So this is the right side. So sorry about that. So we're going to see basically the same things on the left-hand side of these slides, right? Like it's all compliant, it's legal. Our legal counsel said, yes, it's fine. Gail has a question, actually. Or not? Okay, I'll keep going. And Gail, if you have something, just chime in. The one thing is this map has a high variance, so 9.7%. And so that is something that we probably will end up tuning a little bit to make sure that it gets lower and not so close to the maximum. So features, right? Like it follows, like Doug said, school boundaries, both from a Cupertino Union perspective, Fremont Union, and also Sunnyvale Middle. It's sort of the best fit and the best compromise to keeping these communities together. It follows to the community, so you'll see in some of the other maps, especially Saratoga ends up being split into multiple trustee areas, but this is a map that keeps the city of Saratoga together, and also keeps sort of the high profile and very close-knit communities like Blue Hill and Snail and Rancho Rinconada together, which was something that came loud and clear from our public comments. And from a major streets perspective, Paula Stelling, De Anza, Bollinger Road, those are the big streets that and Fremont, the big streets that we cross. And if you look at numbers, like I said, there's a ton of numbers. But the way to read this is total population is the top line, and then there's the percentage population of the different racial groups, and the columns represent the 5 different trustee areas. And TP is total population. CVAP is the voting age population. So it's TP is total, the number of physical people living, and then CVAP is the number who are able to vote. And so you see sort of the data there. And as you can see, Hispanic numbers are high in trustee area 2, and there are Asian majorities in area 1, 3, and 5. And that is true for all 3 of these maps. Questions? I'm going to keep going. This is scenario 6. So the changes that were made from a Sunnyvale perspective is this purple area, trustee area 2, dips down even further. So instead of having the jagged edge here, it goes down further and it better encompasses the Columbia Middle School attendance area, at the expense of moving this area into trustee area 4. But that is Sunnyvale Golf Course. That's LinkedIn. There's a lot of like
Erie Park, yeah.
low. Yep, that the park, and there's a few apartments buildings there, but it's not a high population area. So it was a trade-off that I thought was reasonable. It also puts all of Sunnyvale south of Fremont into the same trustee area, which is probably a desirable feature. And then it makes sort of this area less more connected, if you will, because the prior map showed this area to be like connected by basically 2 intersections or something. So this is a cleaner map from from the way it looks. Any comments, Doug, on this one?
Just in terms of the way that it runs. So between trustee areas 2 and 4 here, we start off with 101 and then going down Matilda. And then it sort of hooks around Target, oddly enough. So it goes over at Iowa, then north on Tafe, and then goes over on McKinley to the edge of the district.
Cool.
Also, just down at the southern end of the district, the city of Saratoga, in this case, instead of being all in one or all in the other, the portion of Saratoga that's within the district in this case is split between 2 different trustee areas.
Right, and so on this one, the variance is lower than Sarah 5. Much of this is the same, except for, like I said, Columbia, inclusive of Columbia Middle School. We lose the, as Doug mentioned, Saratoga being together, but it does keep the key neighborhoods together as well. And so the key streets are Deanda, Bollinger, Fremont, and Matilda. Numbers wise, it doesn't change a tremendous amount, right? It still retains the 3 Asian majority districts. It maintains the 27.7% Hispanic and trustee 2. And so, even though there are map changes, the numbers don't change greatly. Right. Moving on. So this is the final map that we were recommending. So scenario number 7. So this is sort of a different version of scenario number 5. So again, like we don't have Columbia Middle School's attendance area dropping down, but we also have this little area. So this is Yorktown and Wright Avenue. So that goes into this neighborhood. That ends up becoming part of trustee area number 3, and this is a if you will, a way of trying to get the variance better in balance. So this map has a variance of 1.6%, and so those little changes really helped us get these population areas to be much closer together than version number 5. And so, like I said, these are the recommendations that we are making to the board, but I feel like we'll continue to sort of riff on these to see if there's better solutions than having this little cutout being part of trustee area number 3. So the features of this, so like I said, low variance, 1.6%. So that's pretty equal population. Follows the school boundaries. Loses the drop down for the Columbia Middle School, keeps Saratoga together, right? But it also splits up the south of Fremont, Sunnyvale, into 2 pieces again, and keeps same neighborhoods together. And numbers remain relatively constant, 3 Asian majority trustee areas. So if you're interested in deep diving on this, that link that I shared in the chat, you can do all sorts of fun things. Playing with layers is there's a lot of things you can learn. There's a lot of things I learned in looking at those maps. I didn't know that there's random neighborhoods south of Fremont that go to Sunnyvale Middle School. I had no idea. No idea. So these are the 3 maps. Next steps is provide feedback, trustee areas at FUHSD.org. look at the maps, provide feedback through the surveys. I think you all have my email address. You can ask me questions, and go to the board meeting, the special board meeting this coming Wednesday at 6 o'clock at the Fremont Union High School District Board Office, and provide feedback and provide support. There's definitely people who want to make this happen and want to make it happen on schedule. There's some people who are hesitating, and so I would love your support in making sure that the board is clear that this is something we need to do and something we want to do, and we're full in support, and this is what we want to do. Schedule-wise, right? So April 8th is when Doug, me, 14 other people go back to the board. I'm sorry, April 24th is when we go back to the board with a final recommendation. We have one more CTAC meeting on April 8th. And by June, we hope, we'll have the county approving this, and it'll go to the election office, and people can start declaring that they're going to be running in whatever area goes up. Any questions?
One thing I might call out on each of the different maps is, we were talking a lot to the geographical characteristics, but in the top right corner, there's also talk about sequencing. So which trustee areas would be up in each election year. So one thing that we'll call out is you'll notice that the North Sunnyvale district in every single recommendation is recommended to be up in 2024. And then depending on the particulars of the southern end of the district, there are a couple of different sequencing recommendations. Largely, these were guided by the district's legal counsel, and what he suggested basically was that a combination of having areas that don't have a representation currently on the board, and also the presence of protected classes according to the California Voting Rights Act are two things that should bubble up a particular district to the front of the queue for 2024. So in general, what you're going to see is that it's always going to be one North Sunnyvale seat, one trustee area for North Sunnyvale, and then one other trustee area from the southern part of the district.
Peggy had a question.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I have a couple questions. The first one is regarding sequencing right here. I see scenario 6, we have 2 and 5 recommended. Can you show again scenarios 5 and 7, please?
Sure.
I'm wondering if it's still that Lynbrook area for both of those in terms of recommending what's going to be up in November.
Yeah, so Kay, can you go to actually the one that's just scenario 5 so we see the sequencing?
Oh, yes. Yep, there we go.
2 and 5. Okay, and then 7, is that also 2 and 5?
2 and 5, yep.
Okay, so that's just occurring to me now that Jeff Moe and Rod Sinks are both in area 3. So in this case, neither of them would be able to run. And that's the first time I'm noticing that. So that's just interesting. My question was, another question was regarding, you have 3 different scenarios that you're recommending. And as I understand, they are kind of a hierarchy, right? You're saying that you prefer scenario 5 the most, and then 6, and then 7.
That's
So
correct.
I'm wondering what the reasoning is there, as well as how do you kind of justify that huge, the variance being like 9.7 versus 1.6, 1.3. That's a huge range in the variance. How is scenario 5 and CTAD's recommendation that much better?
Yeah, so from a Sunnyvale perspective, right, like they generally all 3 scenarios are quite similar. And so it came down to what represents the south of district neighborhoods the best. And from that, those experts said that this best represents how they want to see the areas. The thing about the 9.7% variance, is absolutely correct, and there are easy choices that we could make that would bring that numbers down, and there's probably harder choices like that little carve out on Wright Avenue that we could make. But I actually think that we will spend some time between now and April trying to figure out a different way of sort of cutting the lines by both making the biggest, most populous trustee area smaller and the smallest trustee area larger to sort of get that variance down. But I think, even just in our prep meeting yesterday, we identified a couple of like easy gimmies that would help bring that down. And so I don't expect this 9.7 to persist. Did I answer the question, Peggy?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. So I'm sorry, the southern part, they are really interested in keeping the Lynbrook attendance boundaries. That's what I'm seeing in this scenario.
Yeah, that came through loud and clear.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Gail and then Mike. Okay, Mike.
Yeah, I guess Gail's having trouble with her microphone.
Sorry, Mike, you go first. I'll go second. Sorry.
Okay, good. You got it working. So at the last board meeting, there were a lot of people from Cupertino lobbying for a delay in this whole process. And on the other hand, there seemed to be nobody from Sunnyvale arguing that, probably because we've been through this before, and and it worked out well, and so we're not frightened by it. But so there may be also people at the next meeting with this position. So I think there's some value to showing up and advocating for continuing on with this, because the district is at risk of being sued at any time, and you could end up spending millions of dollars, and nobody's ever won a lawsuit. So the same one way or another, they're going to trustee areas, and they can do it the easy way or they can do it the hard way. So we think the easy way is probably better. On a comment about the the variations in I mean, just an observation, not necessarily advocating, but that North Sunnyvale in the next 10 years, we expect to see some population increase in the Moffett Park area.
Yep.
So starting out with this on the very high end of the variance is fine, but it just means next time around you would see even a bigger change in the lines when you redistrict after the census.
Yes.
Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And
yeah, we had a conversation in the CTAD about that, and our mandate is that, hey, we have to take the 2020 census. I know we could theoretically talk about the future, but we're going to be doing this again in 2030 or 2031. And that's just a fact.
Yeah. And I see Colleen is asking a good question. Is anybody threatening to sue? But whether they are or not, there are a couple law firms who are making a living sending out letters to school districts announcing they're going to sue, and the law is written in such a way that win or lose, they get paid their lawyer. Their legal fees are paid, so they make what, $40,000 regardless. So there's a real financial incentive to sue, whether it is a firm in Southern California or not. And for example, there's San Francisco school district just got a letter, and so it just seems very likely that will happen. And and there may be more concrete information about that as well.
The school district's legal counsel commented that when a school district is moving forward on moving to trustee area elections, generally they don't tend to get letters. It's if you're not seeing any progress on it, or if you have been moving and then you reverse that process or stop it, that's when the demand letters come. And so I think that was him, strongly hinting, keep moving forward, because that's the best way to prevent a letter coming in.
So back to the notion of like support at the board meeting, I think that would be great. There was a large Sunnyvale contingent that came to one of the CTAD meetings to speak up, which was awesome to counter the we must slow down point of view. And so having a lot of support to make sure this doesn't get derailed is a good thing because it's important.
Thanks.
Dale, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm so curious about this. Why you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're not contiguous. So I'm wondering why. And I know this is goofy, but I would make 2 number 1, and then I would make number 4 number 2, and then I would make number 1 number 3, and then I would make number 5 number 4, and number 5 number 3. But because
So
it's like weird that you've got it all jumbled up.
so
The other
so
thing is the way that you're doing the elections with 2 and 5 and 1, 3, 4. What's neat about Sunnyvale is we did the same thing, but ours are more contiguous, the numbers. So it goes 2, 2, 4, 6 and 1, 3, 5. So I don't know if it's too late for you guys to change the numbering, but it is kind of weird that you've got it all sort of jumbled up.
I
That's
think
all.
that is great feedback, and we should ask because I did notice that way at the beginning, and at this point, I'm sort of so used to it that I don't even see it anymore.
Other CTAD members have made a very similar point. I think that this will be a little inside baseball, but I think that district staff already had these numbers on there and already had the sequencing associated and things like that. And if they went and renumbered stuff right at the last minute, I think that there was worries of introducing, a mistake. So I think that we can take that feedback back to district staff and see if, in the period between this week's board meeting and the next CTAD meeting, there's a little more time to sift through and see if they're open to doing that.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one. So there's in all these cases, there's 2 areas that would be up for election in 2024 as opposed to 3. Is that because there are 2 current members who are at the end of their terms? And
Yes.
If you could remind me who those members are.
It's Rod Sinks and Jeff Moe.
Okay, got it. Which is why Peggy asked.
Yes,
They would be
that
eligible.
they both would be unable to run.
I see, got it. And then one other quick question. I know there has been, as mentioned, some requests from the southern part of the district to slow down. What is your sense on whether the board is amenable to that, or they're moving forward with the regular schedule?
Doug can chime in, but I think they're going to keep moving forward, right? They've been working on this since before the pandemic, and a lot of things have happened between then and now, and I think they're eager to get this moving and get this done.
I have the sense that they've already been working on this and made quite a bit of progress. And if they were to try and stop the process now, it's very likely that something would force their hand. Rod Sinks made a comment at the 3rd map hearing board meeting. I'm not coming up with the date right at this moment, but where he basically said, if for any reason we were to try and pause this process right now, whenever we would try to resume it, all the same fears would come up again. So we would just be, setting ourselves up to have exactly the same set of conversations in a couple of years. Basically let's continue forward.
And I think there's an understanding, like if we do stop this, then the letters will be coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think there's understanding of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have, unless there's more questions. And thanks for your time. And you have our emails and ways to contact us. So let us know if you need more insight. Anything from you, Doug?
Nothing else here. I appreciate everybody's interest and hope to hear you in public comment at the next board meeting on Wednesday.
Right. Thank you guys so much. It's really
Thank you.
interesting. So next we will move on. So I see Patrick Ahrens has joined, and I'd like to give him a chance to address the club after the election. Patrick, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see everyone. I hope, thank you so much for that really, that good presentation. Patrick Ahrens, I just wanted to come on really quickly and say thank you so much to the club for supporting my assembly campaign to represent Sunnyvale and the surrounding communities in the state legislature. We came in first place and are on the road to victory in November. I'm really grateful for the support. We brought up a lot of issues around housing affordability, on better representation, a lot of the things that we were talking about in the current presentation. I know, as an aside, Foothill De Anza was sued and we had to move to district elections. And so I became the Sunnyvale representative on that board. So if anyone has questions about how that process would work, I'd be happy to talk to you about what we did. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about where the campaign is at and looking forward to engaging more of you as we march on to November. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So we are expecting our next presenter to join shortly, but she's not here yet. So I just did want to acknowledge that we do have Councilmember Russ Melton and Councilmember Linda Sell joining us today. So thank you guys for being here. And we plan to do announcements at the very end, but I did want to make one announcement in case people have to leave at the end, which is that in April, we're going to be moving our regular meeting time from April 20th, which is the third Saturday, to the 27th, which is the fourth Saturday. And that is because Sunnyvale is having an Earth Day event and Civic Center grand opening on that day. So that's from 11 to 3. And we didn't want to compete with that. We felt like we couldn't compete with that. So we will be moving our meeting date to the 27th of April. And we do plan for that to be a hybrid format again. So Zoom and in person, again, at the El Dorado Clubhouse.
Crystal, hey, it's Russ Melton here. Can I jump in for a second?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Crystal, for a brief opportunity to speak. Sunnyvale Councilmember Russ Melton here on Zoom from San Francisco. And I can tell folks the weather here is as beautiful as it was in Sunnyvale when I left there an hour ago or so. Crystal, thank you to you and everybody for always putting together such compelling and interesting agendas. I was listening to Kay and Doug talk about the redistricting process, and just so fantastic to have such a stellar advisory board to the school district trustees on that entire process, and I really appreciate it. Since SunnyvaleDems is a political club, I thought I'd just toss out a pitch to those listening. I'm running for Sunnyvale mayor in the November 2024 election. And for those interested in learning about my policy positions, take a look at my website. That's meltonforsvmayor.com. You can make a contribution quickly and securely via PayPal, or if you choose to endorse me, there's a function to do that as well. And my contact information is there too. I'm always happy to talk to folks about what's going on in Sunnyvale or any agenda items coming up for city council. My contact information is all there. And like I said, I'm always happy to talk, and looking forward to working with the club as the year progresses. Crystal, I know you'll be doing endorsement hearings for Sunnyvale mayor, and I'm sure the 3 district council seats that are coming up as well. So thank you again, Crystal, and the entire team for everything that you do at SunnyvaleDems, and it's great to be a member. Thanks again.
All right, thanks so much, Councilmember Melton. Okay, next I see that we do have our next presenter on, Fernanda Perdomo-Arciniegas, and apologies if I didn't get the pronunciation correctly, but Fernanda is the new and first Equity, Access, and Inclusion Manager for the City of Sunnyvale. And prior to joining the city, Fernanda served as Deputy Diversity Officer in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at San Jose State University. And she worked there for over 20 years in various roles. She has received numerous awards and recognitions from the California State Assembly and the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. Fernanda currently serves on 2 different boards of directors, the California Collaborative for Immigrant Justice and Somos Mayfair. So Fernanda, welcome, and we're so happy you're here to talk to us about the new office and your role.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with all of you, and thank you, Peggy, for the invitation. I do have a presentation, so let me get that started. It says that host disabled participant screen sharing. Can I get?
You should be able to share now. You're a co-host.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, but wait. Okay, great. Perfect. Awesome. All right, so I'll be speaking about equity, access, and inclusion here in the city of Sunnyvale. My name is Fernanda Perdomo-Arciniegas, and my pronouns are she, her, ella. And thank you for the introduction, Crystal. Yeah, I'm the Equity, Access, and Inclusion Manager. And last this January, I was just turned 1 in my role. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about, who I am, as well as the City of Sunnyvale mission and vision, our Equity, Access, and Inclusion Action Plan, the Human Relations Commission. I'll share with you some of the events that we have done in the past, unity and community events. I'll share as well some EAI and organizational development initiatives that are happening inside the city, the organization. And at the end, I'll open it up for questions and discussion. So I always like to know who is the presenter. I am very much somebody who is very social and likes to create relationships. So here is me. As I said, my pronouns are he, she, her, ella. I am a first-gen immigrant. I'm Colombian American. I'm also a first-gen college student in the US, although not in Colombia. I have, again, as shared at the beginning, over 20 years experience supporting, advocating, and creating community partnerships in support of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, folks, marginalized, and immigrant populations in higher education spaces. I have over 7 years working as a diversity, equity, inclusion, access, belonging, and social justice practitioner. Before I was the Deputy Diversity Officer, as well as the Director of Latinx, Chicanx Equity, and I'm now the Equity Manager here in Sunnyvale. I'm also part of the Colombian diaspora. I've been recognized by the Colombian consulate in San Francisco, and our representative for the Colombian diaspora, Congresswoman Carmen Ramirez Boscan. And part of my identities, I identify as Latina or Latino-Americana, neurodivergent, allistic, cishet woman, bilingual, bicultural. I'm definitely a lifelong learner. I'm very spiritual. I'm a mother and a running coach. So, here is the vision and mission of Sunnyvale. We build community trust by delivering exceptional services and using our core values of integrity, respect, and leadership. As part of integrity, definitely we are a city that strives to be trustworthy, accountable, honoring commitments, confronting difficult issues, and a high ethical standards. As far as respect, we aim to treat people with dignity, valuing diversity and collaboration. And we have great leadership that strives for communicate clearly to the community, responsible risk-taking, as well as supporting and creating safe work environments and setting a good example. So our EAI division very much aligns with all these goals and vision. And as you our two council members present in the meeting, they were participants of making equity, access, and inclusion a priority, a strategic priority in 2021. Our mission is to support the organization in fostering belonging and equitable outcomes for all residents. Internally, I work very closely with the Sunnyvale Employees for Equity and Diversity. It's called the C team, and it has a representation, and I'll talk after in the future slides a little bit more about the C team, and externally working closely as well with the Human Relations Commission. So here is going to be an overview of our Equity, Access, and Inclusion Action Plan, a very much high-level view. But we have 3 goals and objectives. So our goal is advance equity team recommendations. Last year we did, that was the majority of my time dedicated to working with over 50 employees that were, they actually were nominated, or they participated, they're auto-nominated to be part of these this team to come up with some recommendations based on a survey that we did last year. And out of these recommendations, the city is working or is focusing right now, and 3 in particular, but here are 2 of those, which are internal communications and fostering or accessing or procuring equity, access, and inclusion training for all employees. We're also focusing on cultural sensitivity and awareness training, and that's something that we're working with the Human Relations Commission. So cultural sensitivity and training presentations for the community, as well as celebrating heritage and cultural celebrations, and creating spaces for safe and brave dialogues. And the last one is the community needs assessment, and based on that community needs assessment, we'll develop an action plan. But the idea is we're just in the beginning stages, just going through the RFP. So the idea will be, once this consultant is hired, we'll be working with the community and organizations such as yours to reach out, do focus groups, do interviews to get to those points where perhaps the city is not either is not working or is not aware of. So based on that, we will develop an action plan. The EAI action plan and areas of work can be divided in these 3 blocks, which is capacity building. As you all know, in every organization is necessary to create that capacity, and that will be done through support and or the organization or support the C team, as well as the EAI employee training, and basically operationalizing the recommendations that we're working on at this point. Communications, very important to let the city as well as the community know what are we working, what are we working on, what are we doing, So increasing our social media presence is important. We're working with this Sunnyvale Community Services to create a WhatsApp bilingual channel, as well as the use of Wordly, which is mostly used right now in the Human Relations Commission. But I know there are other boards and commissions that would like to actually use it. So we're just creating those spaces so people can feel, comfortable using this artificial intelligence app, which I just realized you don't know what Wordly is. So it's an artificial intelligence app that translates live to any language. Right now, I think we have 40 languages that can be translated. So if you have a meeting and you're using Wordly and you have members of the community that speak, let's say Farsi, they can translate it, they can read it in Farsi, and then when they speak in Farsi, the people who are listening to them, they can actually read in English. So it works really great for our commission, and you'll know why, because I'll talk about that. And then the last part is engagement and co-creation, and it has to do with the community needs assessment. So let me talk a little bit about the Human Relations Commission. So here, so hold on, let me just move the closed captioning. So here you're going to recognize some folks, but on the left, starting from the left, it's myself, then Commissioner Paulina Zapata, Commissioner Jose Leon, Commissioner Claudia Camacho. We have our SOA, Jeff Otaguro in the back, the Vice Chair, Nanuka Sikua, and City Clerk, David Carnahan, and of course, our Mayor. It's not in the photo, our Chair, Venkata Siva Ramisetti, who is high school student, a senior in high school. Oh, why is not moving? All right, so what are the responsibilities of the HRC under policy 7-219? So there are 5 areas that the HRC should focus on. So the first one is focus on policy issues and not interfere with city operations. Likewise, the commission is not to be a forum for grievances from members of the public. Complaints should continue to be directed to the city manager and city council. And think that this is different from some other human relations commissions where in other cities where they actually receive grievances from the public. Number 2 is study, evaluate, and advise the city council on policies and programs related to diversity, equity, access, inclusion, justice, and belonging. 3, celebrate and encourage intergroup understanding of Sunnyvale's rich cultural diversity. 4, promote regular, civil, and authentic engagement with diverse groups of residents. And 5th, advise on increasing accessibility and transparency of local government policies, programs, and services. A little bit about the HRC. So it is the newest commission in Sunnyvale, starting July 1st last year. We had over 16 applicants. And the commissioners are, as I mentioned, the chair is Venkata Ramisetti. His term ends this year. Vice Chair Nanuka Sikua, her term is over in 2027. Paulina Zapata, likewise. Claudia Camacho, 2025. And Claudia Camacho is our commissioner that speaks Spanish, as she's learning English, and so the artificial intelligence application Wordly is used for her, but I think it's useful for everybody who, like me, for example, I need closed captioning. So a lot of the presentations that we have will have the commissioners speaking on one side of the screen, and on this right side we'll have the translation. The first part will be in English and the second part will be in Spanish. So as I said, when she speaks, everybody can read in English what she's saying, and vice versa. When they speak in English, she can read what they say in Spanish. And then Jose Leon, who just resigned in last month, and so this position is going to be vacant. This position is vacant until June, but this position will be opened until 2025. Council liaison last year was Mayor Larry Klein, and this year we have Councilwoman Linda Sell, and then I am the staff liaison. We have done so for the HRC. What I did, I dedicate my time last year to train the commissioners on intergroup dialogue techniques. These are from curriculums used in the University of Michigan and Cornell University. We did go into using some apps like the National Equity Atlas and the Bay Area Equity Atlas, where they can actually dig deeper into what are the specific situations that are affecting the Sunnyvale community. So you can actually search by education, location, income, country of origin, and it will give you a really good analysis of where Sunnyvale is, and also where Sunnyvale is against other cities in the county or in different counties. We did go over the study issues process. We had presentations from the Sunnyvale Neighborhood Associations. We also had a presentation from Sunnyvale for Equity in Education. Peggy was there. We participated United Against Hate Week, and just recently we had a presentation from the Bay Area Jewish Coalition. Under the work plan for this year, the 4 areas that the HRC is working on, they had kind of like a sense of being celebratory using IGD, which is intergroup dialogue. So promoting these dialogues as well as unity events. So immigration, celebrating either Immigrant Heritage Months or something that has to do with immigration, knowing that Sunnyvale is over 51% a community built of immigrants, intergenerational understanding, multi-heritage understanding, also addressing bullying, othering, and harm prevention, participating in United Against Hate Week, which is this year has moved from November to September, and also helping with connecting with the community when we get to the point of the community needs assessment. Continuation of this, definitely continue to develop ties with the community, doing individual outreach with the Sunnyvale Public Library, and hopefully future trainings and presentations will be to understand a little bit more about Universal Guarantee Basic Income, and also the Advisory Committee on Accessibility. Here, I'm just going to share some of the photos from our unity and community events. So last year, back in March, we had Overcoming Bigotry, a Sunnyvale Unity event. I'm not going to go over all of them because we had 3 of these Sunnyvale Unity events, but they were all aiming to create community as well as giving the folks from the community tools to address either bigotry or what to do as an upstander in a situation when you see a situation where somebody is being other or a recipient of bigotry. We did also invite our community navigators to the city. You actually can see in the photos how Wordly is presented. So the blue side is the English version, the darker side is in Spanish. And so we did an overview of all the departments of Sunnyvale. So we had representatives from each one of the 12 departments do this presentation to the promotoras and receive questions for them. So we also had translators helping and participating. And overall, it was a really good experience. We hope to have this every year. here are some of the events that we did in November. Here is me doing a training in the library. Yeah, our councilwoman Linda Sell was there. Thank you for that. And then we also had the same version of this training. Oh, here, I'm sorry. In Spanish with the promotora. So I went to community services and I just did the presentation there, but in Spanish. And we also had another event that addressed Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. We collaborated with ING Islamic Networks Group. And here are some also organizational development initiatives that this is more internal to the city. So this is the equity, the C team that I was talking about. We have representation from all the departments in this group, and what we're focusing on the recommendations, as I said at the beginning, and how to implement them. Here's briefly just the role of the seed team, but it's basically normalizing race and equity conversations, organizing, looking at infrastructure, developing partnerships, as well as operationalizing, which is guiding the use of equitable tools, and using data to develop strategies. One of the newest things was that I just launched last month our first Growing Forward newsletter. So this is more internal. Again, hopefully at some point I will be able to do something like that for the community. But the idea with this newsletter is to create spaces for people to read, learn about EI, but also to know the things that the C team and my division is doing. I also we created, as part of this community building inside the organization, an allyship learning club. And this year we started with, celebrating Black History Month, and the book was I'm Tired of Racism by Sharon Hurley Hall. This is some of the meetings that we have had in the organization, Sunnyvale. We also did an unveiling. This is another initiative. It's called Unveiling Our Talent. Again, to celebrate Black History Month. And the idea is that every other month I will be interviewing amazing talent that we have in Sunnyvale to highlight their either their heritage or their, like for example, this Monday, we're going to have a panel of 3 amazing women to celebrate Women's History Month. And I hope to not only just go through, the celebratory calendar, but also just highlighting folks that are in the front lines that perhaps don't get the airtime that other people do. So it's all about creating community, breaking silos, and making sure that, we celebrate our employees. And this is it. So please let me know if you have any questions, any comments, and let me just stop sharing so I can see you. And I would love to know at least your names, and since I talk too much. And thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Fernanda. Yes, please you can put a question in the chat, but we're happy to have you raise your hand and ask your question live. I just had one quick question. You mentioned that one of the commissioners have resigned in February, but you were holding it vacant until July. Is there a reason?
No. I'm sorry, I misspoke. So no, it's vacant right now, and we're just I just got it maybe 2 days ago, an email from the city clerk, so we're searching right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Tara, go ahead.
I was wondering how the Whirly works, how accurate it is. I had heard mixed comments on that, but I'm very interested because I think it sounds like a marvelous kind of tool to use in mixed language groups.
Yes. So our experience has been, I will say 85% of the time, the translation works really well. And what happens is that if another microphone is open and not the microphone, for example, when the Spanish speaker, when Claudia speaks, all the other microphones have to be turned off, so the translation doesn't get verbal, and vice versa. So when anybody else was speaking English, her microphone has to be turned off. So that was something that we realized just last meeting, I think it was like in January. And we are working very closely. I actually have a meeting with the vice president of Worley this week, because there are some words that are still not being like picked up correctly, and that we notice that and should be. Right. And so it's like any AI is a work in progress, but it's very good in the sense that we're also saving a lot of money, because every time that we have to hire a translator, it's a minimum of 2 hours, and some of our HRC can go over 3, so it's 4 hours for that. And then at the same time, in this case, the cost savings for the city is pretty great as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? I'll ask one while we're waiting. So is there any effort or thought to kind of go through all of the city policy that exists and just like see if there's anything that's maybe not quite right from a DEI perspective and suggest changes?
Not at the moment. And I think that that's why I wanted to share, the scope of the responsibilities of the HRC. At this point, if there is a policy specific that the HRC should look at, we basically don't have one right now. So it will be more of I guess in that sense is more at the direction of the council or the city manager. But as a commissioner or as a commission, they are not looking at anything in particular at this point.
Or does your office look at when any policy comes up for review or release, no matter what department, does it go through your office to review? And
no, it doesn't. Just the short answer is no, it doesn't go through my office. It's more of I will say that if you're talking about the HRC, will be more about that directive coming from either city council or from, again, the city manager, that we'll have to look at it, but it's not that we are involved in the process.
Hey, Fernanda, can you say again what the SEED, SEED, what is that acronym again? And I wanted to kind of hear how that is going amongst those people, the staff that are in there that are.
Sure. Yeah, so the SEED team is Sunnyvale Employees for Equity and Diversity, and this was instituted back in 2002, I believe. And so we're going through the second kind of iteration of the members that were originally part of the SEED team. They finished their term last year. So the folks that you saw on the screenshot are mostly, the majority are new. So that was our onboarding meeting for this year. We only had 3 members who are who stayed just for the continuity, but they will be stepping down this July. And these are employees that apply to be part of it. We went through selection process as well as an interview process, and then a discussion with the city manager just to present who were those selected. As I said, we have representation from all departments. They are different levels. Not we do have managers and we do have front staff, and what we try to do is to make it as accessible as possible. So we have we're meeting twice a month, and we try to meet either in the morning to make sure that folks that start really early can attend, and then at least they can attend one meeting during the month. And so there's another meeting that is in the afternoon in a different day. Mike?
Hi, Fernanda. I'm wondering if there are any kind of cultural events upcoming, for various cultures. And I know there was I think a Chinese New Year celebration, and we do have the Diwali celebration in the fall. Is that something the Human Relations Commission, spearheads, or I know the Arts Commission and maybe Parks as well are also involved in some of these events. But are there more events planned, and does that come under the Human Relations Commission?
Yeah, good question. As I said, the commission is fairly new. So last year we were trying to I think there was a lot of that onboarding part of, if we are going to have spaces for difficult conversations, because I think that was kind of like the very much part of the intent or the responsibilities of the commission. I wanted them to have the tools to be able to have these conversations with the public. So this year, for the last 2 meetings, we've been trying to narrow down exactly what those events are going to look like. And we just had this past Thursday, a meeting where one of those events is going to be kind of like a space for folks to from members of the community to talk about their wonderful journeys. And so we're still kind of like thinking how that's going to do, if it's going to address their immigration journey or their entrepreneurial spirit or their resiliency and breaking barriers. And the event is scheduled or aimed at this point for May. So that's the one event that I can say is probably in the books. I definitely have, I will be planning something for September for United Against Hate Week. So it might be that we bring a speaker during that time. We might do another, presentation or training with the community. So those are things that they will be involved as well. But at this point, again, you can actually watch the meetings. Are very interesting because there is a lot of back and forth as to what they want to do, what they can do, how they want to focus. So I will say that I think that the May event is probably the safest thing that I can say right now, but many perhaps one or more than that will be happening this year.
Thanks. And I have another question about translation, because that's something we're struggling with the Dem Club as well. And I've attended some of the Human Relations Commission meetings with the Wordly translation on a monitor. But for people watching at home or on YouTube, are they able to see some sort of translation remotely?
So you cannot, I didn't understand, you cannot see it or?
Oh, I don't know. I've only attended in person, so.
Oh, yeah. No, so when you watch it, so for example, I was watching it online because I was at a conference. And so you see the commissioners kind of like on one side of the screen and the translation on the other side. So you definitely can see the English version and the Spanish version.
And I should point out, I believe now Zoom offers a caption, a translated caption in many languages that individuals, who are on now can turn on and look at. I've been trying to play with it, but it keeps seeing me as a co-host, and it will only let me change the language for everybody and not just myself. So that's something we're, trying to get familiar with. But
Yeah,
thank
and the other thing that I will say is that when you are remotely, you can't, there is always kind of like a runner under the under the photo of the commission with a QR. So let's say I'm right here in front of my computer, but I want to have my phone, I want to read on my phone the translation, so I can take a picture of the QR and Worley will do it on my my phone. So I don't even have to rely on the screen. I can just read it right here.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Steven?
Hi, yes, my name is Steven. I go by Steve, and I wanted to ask about how residents might bring issues to your attention. I know it's not a place for complaints, specific complaints, but what if residents feel that there's specific policies or ordinances that are discriminatory or biased and do not deliver equity? How would a resident bring those issues to your attention?
Good question. Thank you. You can address the commission like any other commission. You can do that through public comment. You can attend in person or you can do it via Zoom. We usually give folks, remember if it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but that's something that definitely it's encouraged. We haven't had a lot of folks coming to, I think is the fact that not a lot of people know that this commission is out there, but at the same time, I feel that it's good too, because the commissioners are just getting off the ground. And I know that other commissioners, or I know that other commissions, they had a lot more, they have commissioners that are very much, they have been there for a while. So they bring that knowledge and they bring that sense of, order or how things are done. So these are all 5 new commissioners that are just learning the ropes as well and kind of understanding what is their role. So I also have to say that I'm new, so there's a lot of things that I'm very unsure. So I go to David or the city clerk or Jackie as well. So
yeah, and so in follow-up, what would be the authority the commission has to bring policies back to council? Does it have to go through study issue, or what mechanism do you have to get action on issues that you find lack equity?
Yeah, so basically the commission will do that through a study issue proposal. So under, the second responsibility is study, evaluate, and advise the city council on policies and programs. So that we haven't done it yet because we, as I said, is a very new commission. So there were no study issues presented to council from the HRC. But that's the way that we use it here in Sunnyvale. So yes.
Okay, thanks for your response. I think that's a very limited mechanism and will result in you lacking power to have action. And that's just a personal opinion, but thank you for your response.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey, Crystal, it's Russ Melton from Sunnyvale Council. Do you mind if I jump in for a second, please?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. I'm listening intently and deeply appreciate the comment from Steve Meyer. And it's an interesting topic about, the authority of the commission or things that are included or excluded from their scope. Any resident who has a concern about a policy, an ordinance, a general plan, anything in Sunnyvale that you feel runs contrary to equity, access, and inclusion, I would encourage the resident to contact City Council directly. Of course, you can go to the Human Relation Commission too, but absolutely feel free to contact City Council directly. That's to Steve or anybody else listening. And of course, our email address is council@sunnyvale.ca.gov. And that routes automatically not only to each of the 7 council members, but to relevant senior city staff. So thank you, Crystal, for letting me jump in there for a second. I appreciate it.
Yeah, can I have an opportunity to rebut on that response? So as a massage therapist, I have engaged City Council countless times, and I've been rebuffed in all those times. I find your regulation of massage therapists to be lacking equity. It's the only profession that has to go to the police department to get authorized to work. I feel that I'm a healthcare worker. All other massage therapists are a healthcare worker. Your ordinance and your practices are highly discriminatory and penalizing people that are very low income. And majority of the massage therapists are Asian females and immigrants. So, I mean, there is a racial and a gender problem going here. I have tried for the past 10 years to get you to do something, and you have not moved 1 inch. Thank you.
All right, so seeing no further questions, thank you all for your questions and the discussion. And thank you, Fernanda, for coming to present to us. This is really, I learned a lot, and we may ask you back again at some future date.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thank you, Fernanda.
Bye-bye.
All right, so moving on, next we have a presentation from Gail Rubino, our secretary, and Peggy Brewster, our at-large board member, about opportunities to bring the Silicon Valley Hopper to Sunnyvale. I have the presentation, which I will pull up. It's going to take me just a second. I have it open, but you can go ahead and start if you want.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gail, and Peggy's there under, well, I don't know where she is. She's under me, but that's okay. Anyway, this is before the council on March 26th. I don't know how many of you have seen the little cars that go around in Cupertino. It's called SVHopper, and it now does both Cupertino and Santa Clara, the south part of Santa Clara, the closest to Sunnyvale. And it does come to Sunnyvale. It comes to the train station. So if you can put up a presentation, and this, we're going to tell you all about this, which is great. And I want all of us to be writing it in the future. Oops. That was a sneak preview of some numbers. There'll be some tests. Okay, that's it. Bringing the Sunnyvale, this SVHopper to Sunnyvale. Next slide, please. Peggy and I are sharing this, so I hope it doesn't go too badly. Okay, so this is the call to action. Support bringing the SVHopper to Sunnyvale. There's a council meeting on March 26th. They're going to discuss potential state and regional grants and funding sources to fund this little puppy. And there are grants available, and we want to get at least 2,350 riders. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, next one, how to support it. Please, if you have a moment, there's enough talking points in this that you can figure out what to say to a council person. You can send an email to the council. It's, and we have the email later in the presentation. And please attend the city council meeting and speak during the comments. I'm flipping it over
Yeah,
to
next slide, please.
Peggy.
Okay, so the Silicon Valley Hopper, next slide, please, would be an expansion of the existing service that is in Cupertino and has already expanded off of the Cupertino's program into South Santa Clara. The expansion makes sense because it is a way for us as a city to provide transportation for all of our residents, including seniors, disabled persons, students, families, workers, visitors. It's a very responsive system. So if somebody needs a door-to-door service to come pick them up directly at their door, if they have a walker, wheelchair, there's somebody there that can help them get on. But if it also makes sense for the pickup to be like at a cross street that's close to where that person is, it will also gather that information and make it so perhaps multiple people could join the hopper in that area. So as we know, mass transit in the Bay Area is not very cohesive. And this is a way for us, for the city, to provide that last mile transportation. So somebody might go to work like on Caltrain, but they'd have to get to the Caltrain station, and that might require them to drive their car, single occupancy vehicle, or walk there. But if there is a hopper, that is an opportunity for us to close that gap in that first and last mile transportation. The grant that has been used to fund the Cupertino and expansion into Santa Clara is the TIRCP, which is Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Programs through the state. There's a link down there if you want to check that out later. The main purpose of that grant is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and also to interconnect different programs of rail connectivity. So this aligns with our climate action goals in Sunnyvale and sustainability initiatives. It also could be used for high school transportation. We had a study issue that my group C pushed through to study transportation, so shuttles for high school students for after school activities, and that has not launched. Nothing has been done with that yet. So this could be used for that purpose. This citywide shuttle could be used for that service. And we could also then study the service while it is already in place. We had that interconnectivity with the intercity, tri-city interconnectivity. So while Cupertino shuttles are coming up into Sunnyvale to go to the Caltrain station, they are not making other pickup or drops while they're in Sunnyvale. And so expanding the program into Sunnyvale will allow us to also go down into Cupertino and over to Valley Fair, have all that interconnectivity. There's a phone app that is used for on-demand services. We'll show you a little more information about that in a bit. It's also synced with existing transit services such as VTA and Caltrain. If it makes more sense for you to catch a bus, it's more efficient or more economical, then it will route you that way. It is kind of smart in that way. It's an alternative to Lyft or Uber, other rideshare options, which are far more expensive. And there's also great benefit to businesses, economic development. If you could imagine like some business people coming into town, staying at a hotel and being very, very far away from somewhere they'd actually want to eat dinner, if they could call up the Silicon Valley Hopper and have them, take like a group of 4 of them over. It's a one initial price, say $3, $3.50 for one person, and then an add-on of $1 for each of those additional people. It makes a lot of sense. And it's a great experience for us in Sunnyvale and visitors of Sunnyvale to have that kind of convenience for us. Next slide, please.
This is me. So the purple areas are areas that have a shuttle. And what's really cool about this is, as most of us know, because we've all traveled around the world, Once you get outside large cities, it's very difficult to get around. And many, 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 many communities around the world have little shuttles. The three here are Palo Alto. And if you want to ask a question about use on that, we have some slides on that. And then the middle one is the Cupertino Santa Clara. And then the other one that is started up is Milpitas. Milpitas has some federal money, and in addition to using VTA, and that's another source for us, is seeing if we can use Rocana to see if we can get some funds shifted to us. Next slide, please. Okay, so VIA has worked. VIA is this huge company that has shuttles all over the United States. It's worked with Cupertino to increase the mobility and access since 2019. It's now named because it expanded to Santa Clara. It's now called the Silicon Valley Hopper. In Cupertino alone last year, 53,000 rides, which is absolutely terrific. Active riders is 2,350 in 2013, and those are people that use it a lot. The average ride rating is 4.8 of 5 stars. And next split is in 2023, Cupertino and Santa Clara received an $8.5 million in TIRCP funding to expand the service to Santa Clara. Via the grant, VIA replaced their service vans with an all-electric fleet and rebranded, and that's the cute little car over there on the right. And the service expanded on November 20th, 2023. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is, okay, what's cool about this is it shows you where it is, but it also shows you the popular designations. And once you look at that, you can see who the target market is. De Anza College, Mainstream Cupertino, the Central Library, the Town Center, the Senior Center, the Santa Clara University, the mall, the hospital, Cupertino, Monte Vista, and Wilcox High School, Kaiser, Rancho San Antonio on target. And you can see if we expand it into Sunnyvale, it'll be very similar. We'll get lots of kids going over to Anza, and you'll have kids going to school, and you'll have lots and lots of seniors like myself and some other people in this audience will probably jump on it to go shopping. What's really cool is that people now are able to jump on this shuttle from Cupertino. Once it's expanded, they can come to the AMC Theater over on Murphy to the movies, or they can go to Target, and vice versa. We can go all the way over to the Westfield Mall. We can go over to Santana Row. We won't have to park cars. So this is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I really think you need to consider advocating for it. Next slide, please.
Okay, so I see Colleen in the chat, you wrote, how is a car micro transportation? I'm actually not sure this micro transit, that word came from. I know it's not macro, so it's not like Caltrain or the buses, but what we're referring to is electric shuttles, and they are cars. It's an electric fleet, so it's kind of like a minivan size, or like a sports utility vehicle. Oftentimes they have different types of cars. Next slide, please. So we want to give the case scenario of a high school student who is done with band practice, for example, and needs to go home, and their practice ended at 8:15. And if they were to take a VTA, that would be an hour and 19 minutes, including the walking and taking the bus, including a transfer on the bus. The next slide shows that if we use the hopper, if that same student is able to use a hopper, it would decrease drastically the amount of time that it would take for that student to get home. And as we know, at that time of day, 8 p.m., that is the time you should be with family, and you should be starting to settle down and get ready for bed. High schoolers also finishing their homework. So that time is really precious. And as we know, also a lot of students in North Sunnyvale are not able to participate in extracurriculars after school because they don't have this kind of transportation service. And we have talked to the high school district. They actually passed a resolution in favor of Silicon Valley Hopper. And we have some verbal agreement from some of the trustees, at least, that they would like to subsidize this cost for the high school students in North Sunnyvale. Next slide, please.
Okay, this is the proposal. The general public full citywide travel. It'll cover all of Sunnyvale, the full population. We think it would be almost 200,000 people during a day, and the trips to key centers and downtown would be encouraged in Rider app. Okay, so the option one, we're assuming 2,250 rides a week, with a utility of 4.7. The cost per ride would be about $18.80, and the city after the grant would be $9.40 cost. Okay, the pros: a solution for general public transportation. High utilization will result with full population. Data will demonstrate where additional fixed bus transit is optional, and the option to coordinate service with Cupertino and Santa Clara. The cons are obviously the cost. The one thing to consider in this is that it's a pay as you go. I think that's the words to use, and the city would only spend when people use it. So if this is not successful, it won't cost us very much, and we can decide whether or not to continue. If it really works, that's where we'll have to figure out how to fund it, because it's not sustainable. I'll agree with anyone in this room that says it's not sustainable with a $9.40 cost per ride. So we will have to figure out how to fund it. And I think we're smart enough to figure out how to get businesses, people, and the city to work together to figure out how to fund this. It's really important for the last mile. There is no option, and VTA is not considering one. And fixed routes just don't work in areas such as Sunnyvale. And that is me. Next slide, please. Is this one me too, Peggy?
Yeah, that's you.
So this is the current rates. It's one way, $3.50, and you can't get in an Uber for less than that. The discounted fee is $1.75. It's additional riders, as Peggy mentioned, is $1, and your first 5 rides are free. So you can get used to it by not paying much money. There's discounted fare eligibility. I thought this would be a good thing to show because a lot of people here are over 65, and you'll just have to show a photo ID of your beautiful face. The student ID is valid with a student ID. There's a low income discount, CalFresh or Medicare, Medi-Cal card. And there's also a disabled discount with a placard and registration card. This is really going to be easy for us to jump on it and get around town. Next slide, please.
Okay, so how to use the Silicon Valley Hopper. Next slide shows that it's the interface is an app. So you would download the app and you would ask for a ride, and it would you'd go meet your driver, or the driver would come directly to you as needed. There's a link down there if you want to go check that out yourself. Next slide shows that the rider application, like I mentioned before, will also help you navigate if VTA makes more sense. Then it will ask you to take VTA instead, kind of keeping in mind the time that it takes, as well as the cost for each person. And so this is a really important service that I think our city should also be providing to all of our residents, as do cities around us, like Palo Alto, Cupertino, Santa Clara. You know, the transit systems are not enough right now, and I do think it's our city's responsibility to step in. And with this kind of service, we can study how the shuttles are being used while they're being used. It's very smart in that all the data can be collected, and we can check out what is the use case for, these high school students, or for Imperial Park, for example. And then we can figure out, is this something that we can continue doing? There are ways to dial up the cost for us as residents, so we might pay more than $3.50, more or less, based on the amount of demand there is. But I think it's really important that we give it a try and see what the use is, what the need is, and if it is great, then find a way to sustain that. Gail, next slide for you, I think.
Yep. And we're getting to the end here. So hop on the SVHopper. What you need to do, please consider sending an email to council. These are some good talking points for you. It serves all of Sunnyvale for students, seniors, disabled persons, workers, visitors, families, and more. You have to, one thing that we're probably not aware of is if you stay at that AC hotel over in Moffett Park, you are stuck there for dinner. And a lot of visitors do not get rental cars in Sunnyvale because they're so close to where they're going to visit. And we've got a lot of people stuck. The hotels are really for this. Anyway, next, supports the Sunnyvale Climate Action Plan and the sustainability goals. So they're right there in black and white. It decreases greenhouse gas emissions. It decreases miles on single occupancy vehicles, and it increases business vitality in Sunnyvale. I'm sure all of us who've traveled around the world have jumped on these shuttles. We're very familiar with them. They're safe, they're reliable, and please consider sending an email to council@sunnyvale.ca.gov. Thank you very much for your time, you guys, and I hope you think about this. Any questions?
There's a lot of additional slides in the appendix. If we want to send that out later, you can peruse through that on your own if you want some more information. It's all there. And Gail and I are happy to chat afterwards or any other time if you have any questions.
Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, Gail, the price per ride seems kind of high. I mean, that's close to the same price if I take an Uber to the airport. From my home, it's about the same price, but this is a vehicle that has, multiple people in it and shorter rides. It just seems kind of high.
Okay, well said.
That's the $9 cost or the $350, Mike? Or were you referring to?
Right, but I'm talking in terms of the cost to the city.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is we need to wait and see what the numbers are that the city comes up with for the price of this. Because I've tried and I can't get any out of them. So I don't know what it is, and I don't know how the allocation works. So we'll find out more about that on March 26th. I don't think the 350 though is bad for people to jump on.
No, well, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying to get some more information about budgeting for this and have not been able to yet. So we are looking forward to that presentation on the 26th or when it's released ahead of time. And the other kind of ball in the air is the TIRCP grant is usually released by now, like it has not been opened up yet. And so there is just kind of a little bit of a waiting game as to when is that going to happen, how much will be available, what are the funds available. So also waiting for that to come out in order to be able to apply for it.
Yeah, and this, I know there's a concern too about long-term costs because Sunnyvale has to budget for 20 years and but it seems possible that let's say in 5 years, some of these things could be done with a self-driving vehicle, those vehicles, which would lower the cost.
Unfortunately, at this point, we don't know what all the overhead is that's causing that the $18.
Right.
So we will find out and then pick it apart.
But it is also possible that some of the study issues might not have to be run. For example, the one for North Sunnyvale, if we're able to use this service and to also study the usage while it's in place.
Right. All right, thanks. Great presentation.
Thanks. Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you guys. It was really informative and I feel like I know all about it and what to do next. All right, thank you guys. And so we are over time a little bit, but I did want to open up to some announcements. There are a few that I have, and then others, if you also have announcements, please raise your hand. I'll just repeat: the Earth Day and Civic Center grand opening at the city on April 20th from 11 to 3. This meeting of the Dem Club will be on April 27th in a hybrid format. At that meeting, we are going to invite people who are thinking of or who are running for office in November to introduce themselves to their club. I mean, similar to what we did today, but a little more time to describe your platform or strategy, and introduce yourself to the club before the more formal endorsement meetings. Also wanted to announce that the May meeting will be our annual board elections, and there are openings for membership director and an at-large position. So if you are interested, please contact myself or Peggy, or and we're creating a nominating committee. So not ready to announce those people yet, but Peggy is on the nominating committee, so please contact her to start with, or myself. All right, and summer picnic is on July 20th this year, which is our regular meeting time. Let's see. Oh, please apply for boards and commissions. So by April 25th, most of the commissions do have openings. So similar, we heard about the Human Relations Commission does have an opening. The Sustainability Commission will have an opening. And again, most of them do. Peggy put into the chat the Sunnyvale Education Foundation Showcase, which is coming up this coming Thursday. I think it's 5:30 to 7, and there's a way to register there in the chat.
I just dropped it in again. It is a fundraiser, so even if you're not able to come, if you would like to buy a ticket and donate that, or just donate directly, it does go directly to students for enrichment in Sunnyvale School District schools.
And the last one I have is there's a study session this Tuesday at Council at 5:30, which is on the update of the Climate Action Plan and the Game Plan 2028. So that's, and then there's also a presentation about parking. They completed a study issue, and they'll be doing a presentation on that study issue during the regular council meeting. I think that's agenda item 2. All right, any other announcements before we wrap up?
I just want to say that that last one is a very important item, the parking, because the city wants to have parking minimums, and it's important that you find out what they are. And if you oppose it or advocate for it, it's important to have your voice be heard.
All right. Hearing no further announcements, we will adjourn for the day, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.